Well, congratulations. You have made it to August 2020. Welcome to the Anxious Millennial Podcast. I am your one and only hostess, Alexandra. On today's episode, I am so thrilled. We have a psychologist from the UK by the name of Leonie. She and I connected over well-being, and I am so excited for the insight that she's going to bring you today. Leonie, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we were talking about gardening because it's a lovely day in the UK today.
It is 26 degrees here at 5 p.m. It was about 30 earlier. So got very beautiful weather, and it's been like this the last few weeks. So it really makes things a lot more wonderful in lockdown when the sun is shining. So
I know, I just can't believe that it's already August. I'm in a little bit of denial, but we'll take all the nice days that we can. So, Leonie, I'm going to jump right into it. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as I always say, that simplicity is queen. I'm going to start off by asking you, what is your word for 2020 and why?
So my word for 2020 is to find yourselves. Okay? We've been given, 2020 has been sprung upon us. It is not the 2020 that any of us planned. And so there are, I'm sure there have been some challenges and ups and downs for everyone. But the one thing that we've been given, which we never seem to have enough of, is time. Okay. And I think that, it's really important to not take up all of that time worrying about things and use it as an opportunity for reflection and to find out who you are and what's going on with you. To really ground yourselves, because we're not going to get this time back until retirement. Then no one's ever going to give us 4.5, 5, 6 months unless we take a sabbatical, we're in between jobs, or we retire. So I think that we've been given a gem, we've been given a golden nugget that we might not get for a long time to come yet. So how can we use it as an opportunity to find ourselves? I think that's really important for me. That's my word for 2020. And also to think about what's your story? What's your lockdown story? It can be, when you write a book, you say what you want it to be about. You say what the chapters are going to be. You could write one chapter and it can have 5 different spins on it. So what's your story? What's the spin that you're going to put on 2020? It's actually in your hands, and you can choose whether you want to think about all of the negative parts, or if you want to remember all the positive parts, or all the funny parts, or all the parts where you were connecting with people, or the parts when you were on your own. But I think those are my 2 things, is find yourself and what's your story.
What's your story? That's brilliant. I think you mentioned time, and to us, we think as time as the concept, we don't even understand it really. We just kind of live our day to day. And you bring up such an interesting point that we've been given the gift of time, haven't we?
We have. We always complain all the time. Oh my God, the summer went so fast. The Christmas holiday went so fast. How did the year go so quickly? Oh my God, there was too many things to do. I didn't get half of them done. And so we've been given this gift of time. Mm-hmm. We don't have a commute anymore for a lot of people. We're able to still, okay, it's difficult being at home with the children if you've got them, or with your family or your partners if you've got them, and trying to work, but you've been given the gift of them being around. That's how you can look at it. You don't have to think about what you're going to do when you get home, it's taking you 2 hours to get there. You're not tired. You've got the energy because you've been given the time back. So, I really think that, we need to look at that as a gift, because, that impacts on our well-being positively, to not have to be rushing about or thinking about how we're going to apportion our time, because we don't have enough of it, because we're giving it away to so many people. If you were giving all that time away to other people, then really that means you've got additional time now for yourself.
Absolutely. And that I think is what yields to a successful life, because we think of success so tied to achievement, perhaps in the workplace. But speaking of which, psychology for success. that is what makes a successful life, is your ability, I believe, personally anyways, to achieve well-being and balance what can make you happy and how to achieve and make sure you're maintaining those interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
So to that, can you tell me more about Psychology for Success and why it is so close to your heart?
Well, Psychology for Success is my company. I'm the director of, and we provide psychological services. So therapeutic services, learning and development services, and we also provide rehabilitation support, and we provide psychologists as experts. So in expert family law cases, immigration and criminal cases. But, I decided to call my business Psychology for Success because, I think that when people come to psychologists or when they come to me, they're looking for hope. Okay. And, if you don't have any hope, you wouldn't bother to come and ask me to help you just sit at home or not do anything about the issue that you've got. Just let it overwhelm you. But I think that even if people do feel overwhelmed when they come, it could be something as serious as a court case or something significant that's happened to them that actually they know it's hard, but that they're actually willing to face it now. And I think that that's a really amazing strength of all of the people that, come through my door. And this is why I call it psychology for success, because I think it's all about, helping people to find their strength and their power. And, hope does spring eternal. I think that when people come to me, that they're looking for hope. And so this is why I call it this. I could just call it, I don't know, experts on demand or psychologists are here, but we're not just here. We're here to support you in whatever it is that's going to make you successful. If you've got a stumbling block, then we're here to support you with that, whether it be a legal one or whether it be about something personal in your personal life. We're here to support you with that. And so this is why I called it that. And this is where it came from. Before I, just had a business service, but now it's called this because I believe that it kind of personifies me as well. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of my clients say to me, "Oh, you've always got lots of interesting creative solutions." And I think that I'm quite solution focused in my work, hence the fact that I use a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness that helps people to ground themselves. And so I think that this is where I gave birth to this baby of Psychology of Success, because I feel that kind of says who I am and how I do business.
Right.
And what to expect from me. And that it's about, I'm here to help you, but also it's about you, learning to work out where your strengths are, whatever they might be.
Yes, your strengths.
Your power.
It's to me, I believe so strongly in putting an onus on mental health, not just now, because the thing is with right now, mental health is at the forefront in a way it's never been before, I believe, in the sense that the gift of time has allowed us to take a look at ourselves, and the good, the bad, the ugly starts to come out. And so when you're given the luxury of time, you go into overthink mode. Mm-hmm. And so that's when things, I believe, bubble up. Are you seeing a bit of that pattern with people reaching out to you?
I think that, what I am seeing is that the thing about 2020 is that you cannot hide from it.
Absolutely.
It's very exposing. So I think that's what I picked up from my clients, that, because of the situation that we're in, that if you don't get on with the person at home, or if you're not confident about yourself, or if you don't like yourself, or if you're worrying about things, that you cannot hide away from all of these issues in 2020. There's nowhere, you cannot use work as a distraction, or going out with your friends, or going to see your sister. These things, I know you cannot, you have to deal with you. And this is why I think I said find yourself, because I think that, that's one of the things that people have been, it's been very exposing.
Oh my goodness. Yes, it's been super exposing, and not in the most flattering of way. I mean, we're facing some demons that we've probably put away for a little bit, but hearing the passion you have for psychology, are there pivotal moments in your life that have driven you towards psychology? What brought you to this industry in the first place?
As a young person, I always knew that I wanted to help people, and it kind of came from that. My dad sat me down and gave me the talk, actually, when I was really young. I didn't even really know what psychology was at the time, and he said, sit down, Remember, he sat me at the dining table and he said, you need to do something sensible with your life. You can't be singing and dancing all the time. Now you think about what you want to do. And I thought, well, I like helping people, so maybe I could do something, in the legal field, be a solicitor, or, look at psychology. I thought that was a bit more, you get to engage with people on a more positive level. So I decided to go for that. But, when you're studying psychology, it's quite intense. So it's a lot of learning. And so I think when maybe when I started to learn about it, I started to fall out of love with it a bit in a way because there was so much information. But there were bits that I fell in love with, and I suppose when you're much younger, everybody's worked or you understand work. So occupational psychology was my first love, I have to say, and understanding the dynamics of performance and well-being in the workplace. Understanding, how to profile people at work, understanding competency frameworks. So all of these things were actually my first love. But while I was there and I was doing a lot of assessment work, I started to do a lot of development work. So if they were looking for internal promotions, but, organizations where they were looking at developing potential. So looking at, how to profile individuals, what their personalities are like. And I think that's where I started to fall in love with well-being, because I really got to grips with understanding people and, who they wanted to be and, maybe what made them vulnerable and how they were willing to face those things. So I think that was kind of, where I fell in love with well-being. And so I decided that I would retrain, additionally train. So then I trained as a counselling psychologist on top. So it's kind of given me, the understanding of human behaviour and well-being at work, but also just in general, because I now work clinically. And I think the two hand in hand have really helped me to fall in love with psychology, because I think that now I just do the things that I want to do. And I don't know if that's because you get to a certain part in your career, but I just do the parts that make me feel something.
Yes, deriving meaning from work. That is so important, because so oftentimes in our lives we're faced with sort of a right or left decision. In fact, just hearing you made me reminisce. I studied psychology on an undergrad basis only. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and you mentioned falling out of love with it. That moment for me, I went to a wonderful school here in Montreal. I went to McGill University, a very highly competitive place. And I started to think to myself, first year was fun and you get to meet so many people. But as the classes get arduous and much more, you're seeing, first of all, the fallout, right? You're seeing less and less people as the program is progressing. And we see psychology so often as this qualitative, non-scientific, place or space. And it is not a pseudoscience. And that is so what we were trying to learn and try to instill, is that this is a science. Behavior is a science.
It's very full on. And, this is the one thing, I have a lot of, I've even just appointed some honorary assistants to come and work with me. I say to them that, this is so scientific and it's all about understanding numbers. Even if you learn qualitatively, about people, actually, it's better to work in that way qualitatively when you understand the quantitative, the numbers and the scoring, because that's what you do in psychology. You learn how to quantify personality, to look at the levels of significance of, people's behaviors. And so it takes a lot of learning and understanding all of the rules, and even sometimes doing them by hand so you understand what the difference are. And it really does burst your brain, so it takes some perseverance. But you do need to know these things, because I think it's this underpinning that's made me a good psychologist. I do believe that if I didn't know all of that stuff, I wouldn't be able to make the decisions or, even to understand human behavior in the way that I do. Every day, every week, I'm always, even if it's IQ, well-being, I'm scoring something all the time. So I've definitely fallen in love with it again, just wholeheartedly. But because you understand what you're doing and you choose the things that you like, because if you're doing the things that you don't like and it's hard anyway, it's even more difficult, isn't it? So I think this is the thing. It's kind of, when you do your degree, it's very generalist. But as you get on in your career, You learn things, you do different parts of psychology, and you really just find your feet, find yourself. I think that's what I did, is I kind of found myself in it and what I could give back to people because I was feeling something. I feel that, I do a lot of well-being work within organisations and can see that it's making a positive impact to the person. And I think that that's really, where my heart lies. Yes, we can make a positive impact to the organisation and to the wider society. But I think that it's great to start from outwards and to be able to work with people and see on a direct level the impact that it's having on them, the work that you're doing. So I think this is, I've got to that point. But, for anybody, who's out there studying psychology, I would say don't give up. And once you get past this kind of period of feeling, oh my God, this is so difficult, you will find your love. You will. Mm-hmm. It will take some time, but you will find the bits that you love.
Psychology is always going to be a love for me on a personal basis anyway. And, the beauty of that is it allows us. And you said it so beautifully. You learned a lot too about yourself through that journey, right? And I hear that so often where people who go into psychology end up learning a ton about themselves. And it gives you the empath ability to be able to tap into someone is such a gift. And so that too is like it's a skill or a muscle you get to sort of exercise in learning as well about yourself, right? I mean, what's your thought on that?
I mean, I agree, Alex, because I think that for me, anybody who comes to me, I always thank them, It doesn't matter if it's an expert case or if it's therapeutic piece of work, I usually will say, thank you very much for, coming to see me, thank you for choosing me, but also thank you for just making this step into therapy or, even if you feel that you need some psychological support, thank you for, kind of coming to me. And I always feel that my clients make me better people, because if somebody is so brave that they will put their trust in me,
yes,
then I need to make, I try my best not to kind of veer towards the perfectionist end, which sometimes can happen because you feel that you need to always be striving for your best self. But, I feel that I need to put the work in for them as well as for myself, because they're putting the work in because I encourage them. And they've been brave enough to come to me. So I should be brave enough to try and at least resolve some of my demons and just try and stand in my own truth.
Stand in your own truth. It is so interesting to hear you say that, because perfectionism is such a beast that I can have a whole series on perfectionism.
Oh, me too. I'm telling you, I could.
Oh, yeah. And it is a very intricate, I say demon, but it is a demon. It is a very intricate personality trait. And the funny thing about perfectionism is that it is directly tied to anxiety. Do you believe, Leonie, that there's still a big stigma with reaching out to a therapist and talking to a therapist or a psychologist? Is there still that sort of dark cloud, that stigma, that shame that's attached to it?
I think that there still is, especially in particular cultures, especially with sometimes men as well. That there is quite a big stigma and kind of feeling that it's a sense of failure because you need support. So I do think that's something that, in society that we do need to work on. I think recently there has been a lot of work around that and, kind of supporting even issues that happen that we can't avoid, like we can avoid, but, that occur, like male suicide, male depression, suicide in general, but just things that highlight that you should speak to someone. Okay. And I think that, even having campaigns like this is quite good because it allows people to realize that, it's okay to talk about it. And I think that even by me always doing all these webinars and, just having a voice, that, part of what I want to show is that psychologists or therapists are not scary things. We're not these, sometimes you can watch things on the TV or listen to podcasts and they're very serious.
I completely agree. I think therapy in mainstream media is so improperly portrayed. And I really believe it does a huge disservice to the mental health community.
I always say to people when they come to me that it's a non-judgmental space. And I think that, sometimes when I have therapy with someone, it's not about them telling other people to come to me, but it's about me being an advocate for psychology. Mm-hmm. And so that they will tell others that it's okay to speak to someone. Okay, it doesn't have to be me. We laugh a lot therapy.
Oh my God.
People might cry. People might get a bit angry. Some people don't say anything for really long periods of time, but, that's up to them, however they want to use this space. And I just think that, we need to move away from this stigma of it being something to be afraid of. And also this stigma of putting the therapist on a pedestal and that there's this hierarchy. Yes, we are here to help you. But as I said to you, I believe a lot in cognitive behavioural therapy, and I'm a strong advocate for guided discovery, and that, I'm there to help you, to encourage you to look into yourself. And so I just feel that sometimes, my role is to be an advocate for people to go away and tell others that actually therapy it's not half bad.
I will say it time and time again, your work is so important. So truly, thank you for what you do.
You.
And so to that, actually, do you believe right now that the current climate and the world is being where it is right now? It's always been a volatile place to be, the world, but being what it is right now, we're still in the middle of a global health crisis. We're still, seeing a lot of uprising, especially in the United States and around the world, actually, on equality. There's been something really terrible that happened in Beirut just a few days ago. So we're being bombarded by a lot right now. Tell us, just based on the climate, I know you designed something. It was called the Anxiety During Lockdown Package. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so this came initially from demands from clients, and now it's something that I've run a number of times now, even outside of my clients. I've been running these quite regularly over the lockdown, which is about managing anxiety in the lockdown. And basically, it's a bit of a toolkit to help people to think about ways that they can reduce levels of worry. Okay, so we go through a bit of an anxiety toolkit. We do think about strategies in mindfulness, but we also think about how you can make changes to your environment and space to allow you to be less worried about what's going on around you, how you set your intention for the day, to make an intention that something positive or good is going to happen, or basically that something is going to happen. Because we've got a lot of people getting out of bed in pajamas and staying in the pajamas all day, and it's wonderful. But, if you want to stop worrying about things, what is the intention that you're setting for what you want to achieve today? Even if it's that you're going to do the garden today, then you should put on clothes that means that you're going to do the gardening. Even if you're going to work today, you don't need to put on a suit. Put on something that makes you feel that you mean business, and that when you speak to people today, that you're going to feel that you're standing in your power. Okay, so we talk about, all different things that you can do to help to manage your anxiety. We have therapeutic session on top of that. So these have been running very well. But they've been 2-hour sessions to give everyone the opportunity to really have, who's in the group to have the chance to say something if they'd like. So the nice thing is that it's not just me talking at people. It's people being allowed to use that space, to use me, but also to talk to people that will be generally their peers as well. So that's something that's been going really well. Just in terms of worry, that it's been a bit of a roller coaster. And, one of the things that I've tried to educate people with in this managing anxiety in the lockdown is around that actually, even though we might be feeling that we're worrying a lot, that it's kind of reasonable to feel like this, because we're in a very extreme situation. And I don't know if you've heard much about the grief cycle. Do you know the Kubler-Ross grief cycle?
Well, I know the 5 stages of grief.
Right. So the grief cycle talks about, how, when you lose, because I talk about this grief cycle a lot with clients in general, and it's not just about when you lose somebody in the physical being, when somebody dies. It could be when you realize that you've lost that relationship, when you file for divorce, when you lose a job, or even when you retire from a job that you've been in for 40 years, that there's a loss, there's a big, massive loss of sense of self, but loss of the way that your life was in some capacity.
Wow.
Yeah, something's changed. And, when there's something that's sprung upon you, that usually this can be something that, you go through this period of grief, because you start with kind of shock and thinking, is this actually happening? And then you move into like feelings of anger, oh my God, like, actually I'm feeling angry and frustrated about this. And then you also feelings of denial and, even hopelessness that you can't do anything. We're in this lockdown and you can't do anything to get out of it. They say you have to stay in. They say you can't go to work or you can't do particular activities. There's nothing you can do to change it. And it's that helplessness of having to deal with a situation that is out of your control. But we then kind of get into a state where we start thinking about, what does new look like? Because we can't do it, we're in this. How are we going to make some changes? What might those changes look like? What might the new world look like? And actually, what's the new plan? Because we can't go back to the old plan. And so there's something about grieving your life or in the way that it was. There's something around, and this is one of the things that we deal with, when we do these workshops, because it's about accepting what's happening now and working out how we're going to move forward with a new plan. Because it's the same as when somebody passes away. You get, you're angry or shocked, why did this happen? They didn't deserve to die. But you get to this point where you have to acknowledge that, after you reflect on maybe feel helpless and reflect on maybe some of the positive stories and the things, what this person meant to you, you then have to think about what is life going to look like without them. Yeah. And I think that, in terms of managing worrying anxiety, that there's something about validating that, if we're looking at it as this kind of experience, that it's actually natural to be a bit worried. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if we look at it as this kind of cycle that actually we're going to get through it. This is your time to worry. And actually, maybe some people are worrying for longer periods of time, shorter periods of time, in a different way. But there's something about validating that actually something bad has happened. I've lost something. I'm a bit worried about it. But it's okay for me to worry. But I need to know, when it's time to move out of this space and think about how I process that. And actually, what's my new life going to look like? Who is the new me? How do I need to upskill myself? How am I going to manage the children at home while I'm trying to work? What do I need to do about this? We're not going on these holidays anymore because they're clearly been cancelled. So what are we going to do instead? What have we got?
Exactly. What have we got right now and to be grateful for, right? Gratitude is a huge practice to implement. And I know a lot of people are going to feel the same way, Leonie, because that too is also almost a gift of reinvention, because you get to reevaluate now your life, your priorities. And someone very wise once told me, to your point about validation, what resists persists. So you can just go ahead with the acceptance. I know it's hard. Acceptance too is a bit of a process, right? To be able to get there. Mm-hmm. But you're absolutely right. Thinking of this as sort of a way to grieve. You are grieving a life that you had, and you're now foraying into, I guess, what we're all calling the new normal. Mm-hmm. But it's a process. It's a process. And you're right. This is very extreme.
It is. And, that part of it is that it's natural to worry about what is it, because not even the government know what it is. So
precisely. So we might as well just lean into the worry.
If you think about it, we're all working it out. So in a way, there's something about, you need to managing your anxiety and your worry, but actually acknowledging that we're all working this out. So even though you can be worried by the fact that there's no plan, this isn't something that anybody could really plan for. So there's something in kind of accepting that this is validating this worry, that it's okay to be worried about the fact that actually we don't know what's going on. But how do we set ourselves free from that? So, mm-hmm. I mean, these are kind of things that we talk about in the workshop, and just trying to help people to work out what stage they're at and validating, where they're at, and, hearing the stories of people that have, what it was like when they were at that point, And it's really great to hear people's stories that when they're, when they're in this stage of acceptance and working out what their next steps are. Two of the things that normally stem out of this anxiety workshop is work on perfectionism and potential. Because I think that, in this new normal, it's always easy to worry about all the things that you haven't done. And
tell me about it.
Nobody looks behind, and looks at the things that they had to change, how they just woke up out of bed one day and were resilient, flexible, that they put all of these changes in place, that they managed the family, managed work, kept work going, even if they didn't keep work going and, something happened and they lost their job, that they did something about it, that they're still here. And people don't see all of these things. They just kind of see, what am I going to do now? Or why am I not improving in a particular way? And they're not actually acknowledging that this has not been easy and validating themselves and being compassionate to themselves. So I always say that the two things that we normally, the second follow-up things that we talk about are usually around perfectionism and, strategies and tools to support people to actually look at their journey. This makes you worry less because it makes you confident that you can achieve things. If you look at what you've done, if you're only looking at what you haven't done, you feel unconfident because you don't actually know what is ahead of you.
Yes.
We all don't know.
Of course.
Okay. So that's the one thing is perfectionism and the other one is potential. So it's looking at, what you can achieve and, believing in yourself. Because I think that in the new normal, that, the skills that they're looking for from people are not the same as they were in the old normal. So, so these may be things that you're good at that you've never tapped into because we've never had to. So it's really getting people to look at themselves and really give themselves some self-praise and look at what they've got to offer, because I don't think people are really looking at it from that perspective. So it's giving them that space to really be able to explore that. And, these are the things that people worry about. So it helps to reduce the level of worry and anxiety because you feel that you're more equipped and confident to deal with whatever's going to come. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And thank you also for that, because it's such a pervasive thing, perfectionism. And I think the ability to reframe and look at potential and what you can achieve and what can be brought forth out of a situation like this is such a refreshing take. And it takes you out of that, I guess, that what many of us who are anxious or who have, maybe even symptoms of depression, like that, the dark spiral, the thing that the weight and the dark space that brings you down. And so, allowing yourself to climb out of that and to see that, over this challenge, over this hump, there is something else. And, it kind of instills that optimism, if you will, without being fluffy or non-realistic. It actually allows you to, as you said, see potential and look back at all the times you did overcome challenges, trauma, like you said, loss of a person in your life, a job, a change of a personal situation. We've all overcome things like this, but yet we lose sight of that fact so quickly when we're faced with something like this. The situation is jarring.
Yeah.
But indeed, speaking of optimism and looking forward, switching gears, I want to know you on a personal note, seeing as we always talk about people who come see you, but the psychologist in you, what brings you joy, not just on a professional level, but on a personal level? What brings you joy in your journey?
As a psychologist or just as me?
Oh, I think we all want to know both.
I think as a psychologist, what brings me joy is being able to connect with new people and just, be able to know that I can help them. And even if not even just about helping them, but being able to network with people and, kind of feel that energy from others, especially since we've, now remote. Actually, I feel that I've been able to do that more because I've got more time. So that's one thing, that I think is, brings me a lot of joy. And I also on a personal level that, what brings me joy is, well, about my garden.
I do.
So, growing my garden and, that my lockdown garden that didn't exist before now, which now has turned into I don't know some kind of horticultural dream out there. But, also my joy of music. And I think that it keeps me alive. It keeps the endorphins going and it makes me smile every day. I DJ in my spare time. So I DJ Cuban timber and soul in my spare time.
Oh, wow.
And yes, so I do that in my spare time. And so that really brings me a lot of joy. And I feel that I can share that joy with others as well when I do it. So
Well, your energy is very infectious. I really do appreciate your time. And so just looking forward now, what are you most excited about?
I think I've, been promoting a lot of, so as you know about my managing anxiety in the lockdown, as well as doing a lot of sessions with people all around the world now, actually. So I'm really looking forward to kind of being able to reach out to people all over the world therapeutically, through my company. And also, what I'm aiming for now over the next few months is to start like a monthly subscription. So I'm really hoping that that's something that will take off where, people can get, access to particular tools, videos of me, and also have an opportunity to do some, online groups as well, where people can join and share their feelings as well. So I think that's something that I'm really looking forward to and excited about developing.
Oh, that's awesome. Can you tell our listeners where they can come join a community or where they can reach out to you?
Yeah, so they can find me on Psychology for Success on Instagram, and also on Leonie Campbell Therapy .co.uk. If you drop me a line on there, then you can also, on the contact form, we will give you all the information about how you can connect with us there as well, and have a little chat with me if you want to put that in my calendar for us to talk about things a bit further.
That is so perfect. Leonie, thank you so much for your time and willingness to share all those wonderful strategies. I know that there are many listeners that probably don't have access to many of the resources and strategies that you've provided us with today, and I will reiterate just how important I think the work you're doing in mental health is. So thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the very kind Leonie from Psychology for Success. I really hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Wishing you a wonderful week ahead and telling you, as always, go conquer.